Hi, welcome to Tre J Show. This will be episode 4. Tonight's topic, we're actually going to be taking a little bit of a swerve. We're going to be talking about Marvel versus DC, the movie franchises. And with me tonight, we have, as usual, my brother David Zorman.
Hi.
On his left over here, we have Mark Brown, who is our local film expert.
Yep.
And on my right, we have Adam Zorman, who is our local comic book expert. So let's get things started, and we'll start with Mark. What would you say your favorite superhero is?
So mine is kind of obscure. He's not really a superhero. He's an anti-hero, but it's Venom, who is a Spider-Man villain, for those of you that don't know him.
Okay. And Adam, who would you say your favorite superhero is?
I would have to say, I want to say Dynamite Thor. Sorry, that's a joke. Midnighter. I'll have to go with Midnighter from DC Comics. Kind of obscure, but
He's if I'm not mistaken, he's kind of an alternate version of Batman, right?
yes, sort of.
Okay. And then, so Dave, who would you say your favorite superhero is?
I'm gonna have to go with Batman. I mean, my 2.5-year-old son's room is Batman. He's got his own bat signal for his nightlight. His bed sheets are Batman. His comforter is Batman. His posters are Batman. I mean, his room is Batman.
Let's be honest, it's actually your room.
Yeah, pretty much. But he's 2.5. He knows what Batman is. That's about it.
All right. And then for me, my favorite superhero has always been the Hulk, the Incredible Hulk. Just love the idea of a giant green man that smashes everything. So let's start things off. Let's talk about Marvel movies a little bit. Obviously, the next Marvel movie coming out is Logan, although it's not part of the main Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's part of the X-Men universe. You guys got any thoughts on that movie?
I'm very excited to see Logan. It's always been Old Man Logan as an interpretation of the classic Wolverine character. But he's an older, more wizened character who is completely different from the classic Wolverine that we're seeing. So I really want to see how they do it. I've read a few of the comics and I really enjoyed them. So this is one of the movies that I'm really looking forward to with Marvel. I also like that the X-Men is kind of separated from all of the big hype about all the Avengers and everything like that. So it's going to be a separate entity. It's going to be its own thing, not a continuation of a big story.
It'll probably be bittersweet. It'll be Hugh Jackman's last appearance as Wolverine and Logan, and he's been there. He's been the Wolverine to a lot of people.
Pretty sure, although you can correct me on this in the comments if I'm wrong, I think he's the only person in a major movie that's played Wolverine. And there's been some smaller animated movies where other people have voiced Wolverine, but I think live action, it's only ever been Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, pretty sure you're correct.
And go with comments. He's got a lot of comments on that one.
It's entirely possible. I guess the next thing for the Marvel is, what do you guys think about, I mean, obviously the big Marvel universe, they're building towards the Infinity Wars. Do you think that they've been doing a good job with that? Are you excited to see what comes of this Infinity Wars? And where do you think they're going to go with after the Infinity Wars?
I think it's good and bad. I've enjoyed all the Marvel movies, some more than others. I think the negative is a movie such as I'm blanking, the Civil War, which was a phenomenal comic series. I think they really cheapened the story down because if it was too big, it would take away from Infinity Wars. So by fitting it into their cycle of the story, they really kind of took away from a story that it could have been much better on its own. So I think that overall it's great, but I think that by trying to fit them all into the cog machine, it's taking away a little bit of the movie's individual flair, basically.
Yeah, I agree with that. That was my thought a lot with the Civil War as well. It was this big event within the comic books. And they boiled this large event down to, from what my opinion, down to just a conflict between Iron Man and Captain America. Instead of this being this big universe-changing event where you had half the heroes on one side, half on the other, it was basically just, let's watch Iron Man and Captain America fight each other. So you got any thoughts leading to the Infinity Wars?
I think they should have done it a little bit sooner. Because the build-up, at this point, it's the Infinity War, and then you're stuck with this what else mentality. I feel like if they would have gone with Infinity War first, then started building up to the next event a little bit sooner, probably would have helped.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the overall Marvel Cinematic Universe has been going on for a very long time, since the first Iron Man movie came out. Then they've been building to it from there. So it's been interesting on that aspect, how they keep building it from there, as well as trying to not sink into the trap of just making every movie a promo for what's coming next. You know, and it's really gonna be interesting to see how Marvel handles post-Infinity Wars. Because, I mean, they're gonna have to start dealing with the fact, you know, Captain America trilogy is done, Iron Man's trilogy is done, Thor's trilogy is gonna be done, and they're really adamant they're not gonna go beyond trilogies for main films. You know, so those characters are gonna have either become secondary, or I don't know how, that's up to Marvel to figure out, but it's gonna be interesting to see as they have to come out and use some more of their secondary characters to build movies around. You know,
Yeah, that's very true. Let's shift our focus a little bit to the DC universe, which obviously isn't as big. There's only 3 official films out right now in the DC universe, and Wonder Woman will be the next movie coming out this summer. I know personally me, I'm excited to see it. I love the fact that with such an early movie within their universe, they're already throwing out a female character, something Marvel hasn't done yet. Marvel has 0 movies within their universe that feature a female as the lead. So I'm really excited to see where this movie goes. I hope it does really well. So any other thoughts? Dave, you got any thoughts coming up for the DC universe?
yeah, I mean, I'm excited for the Wonder Woman movie. It looks really good. And it's cool to see a woman taking the lead in a superhero movie. I mean, DC has the benefit there because, I mean, they have this female character that's really well known in Wonder Woman and has been marketed before. So they can easily take that and turn it into a great film that people are going to love. Marvel, on the other hand, hasn't been quite so great at having good, solid female characters that have been marketed for years like DC does with that, you know. But you got that. I mean, Batman vs. Superman, I mean, I liked the movie. I thought they wasted Doomsday, you know, in the movie. Like, I thought it would have been great to do a whole separate film, just like with that comic book. That comic book was really good. It's one of the only comic books I've actually read the whole thing of, you know. But other than that, I mean, I thought that movie was good. They did well, setting the stage for what's to come, especially when you got Man of Steel, which is just a movie there that they didn't really plan on doing anything with, and then they take it, and now they're using that as their start to their whole cinematic universe. I mean, they're still young. They're only really 2 movies in, two and a half. I mean, you got Suicide Squad, which is in there, but it's not, you know, so they're still young compared to Marvel on doing that whole.
Yeah, I think we're definitely early in the DC timeline, and they have done a good job of revamping so far. Suicide Squad was kind of a one-off. It didn't get as many good reviews. There are people that loved it, people that hated it, so that's a kind of a toss-up. But with Man of Steel, like you said, that was I thought it was a really good movie. And then with the Batman vs. Superman, another movie that reviews weren't as high, but people really liked it quite a bit. So I'm very excited to see Wonder Woman. I'm very excited to see Aquaman come out as a movie as well. So I'm really looking forward to that series as well.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to stress the point. I agree with, it's very similar to what they did with Civil War and the Marvels. What they did with DC is they packed too much into Batman vs. Superman. As Dave said, like, it was such a big event. I mean, like, I remember, like, news channels, you know, like, your local and your national news covered when Superman died in the comic books, because this was this big deal in the mid-90s when that comic book came out. And to just do it so quickly and with such small fanfare, like, I don't feel like they built up Superman's character enough within the DC universe to then kill him off, because it doesn't seem like this surprising, sudden, like, oh, Superman's dead. Like, this is only his 2nd movie in, and you're now killing him at this point. Like, I feel like it was a big waste to throw Doomsday in at that point, and to put so little emphasis on such a big, impactful story in all of comic book history. And, I mean, what do you think
About the DC Cinematic Universe?
about the DC
Yeah.
universe, about, I mean,
I do agree with you that the death of Superman should have been done separately. There's a villain that comes to mind that they could have used instead of Doomsday would definitely be someone like Parasite, who's much smaller, but he could still keep the same origin. I'm also excited for the Wonder Woman movie. It's also, since the end, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first major movie that's been made by the MCU or DCU that actually also has a female director in charge of the movie.
I don't know about that for sure. I do know it was a female director in charge. I don't know if any other one's not a female director or not. So.
Which I also find exciting. And I also, something that comic book fans will definitely agree with probably agree with me, is they are bringing in a comic book writer called Jeff Johns to come in and correct any of the mistakes that have been made in the DC movies in the past to help them move forward and make them feel more like the comics, make them see if they're trying to listen to people as they go on.
It's nice to see them trying to keep continuity between comic books and movies, because you see so many movie examples of how they change everything from the comic books. The X-Men movies were a great example of that. The earlier ones, not the newer remodeled ones, where they'll kill characters for no reason, and you're like, well, that never happened in the comic book. So it's nice to see them trying to keep the people that love the comic books in tune with the movies as well, but keeping the movies open for everybody.
I guess kind of let's move to a broader approach and just kind of talk about the cinematic universes as a whole, and what we think about those. I just want to kind of start this off with a thought is, I love the cinematic universes for what they are. As far as you have this connected universe, it's great that you can bring the characters back and forth to each other. The kind of drawback, and it's starting to go, especially with Marvel, with how many movies they're at now, where I kind of feel like nothing big can happen in the movies unless it leads up to one of the big, like the Avengers movies, basically. You had the first Avengers, Age of Ultron, and then you're building the Infinity Wars. And it kind of goes back to what we talked about a little bit with Civil War, is you can't really, Civil War couldn't have been this big event that changed things, because then it's going to affect what's going to happen in Infinity War. So it's basically just this kind of small explosion that's quickly contained. Now let's move on to the next movies in the series. And it's kind of a disappointing thing, because then they're taking these big comic book storylines and making them so microcosm things. And I feel that's a bit frustrating. As opposed to, like, if they just took the movies as they were without being connected, you get, like, if they did just a Civil War movie, it wasn't connecting anything else, you could have this big event where you have all these characters fighting each other. I mean, I don't know, what other thoughts you guys have about these connected universes?
Yeah, I think one point that we kind of touched on was throwing villains away, like really just them thinking, what villain are we going to put in this? Oh, this is a great one, let's put him in this movie, but we're never going to see that one again, because in that movie they destroy him. And I know there's a lot of great villains out there, but you're slowly going to lose all the good ones. So I think that they could have more focus on keeping villains around, on building the actual villain storyline as well, and not just the superheroes. It's great to see the superhero origin story. It'd also be great to see like villains appearing and reappearing. One series that did that very well, Batman Begins, which was DC, had reoccurring villains, which I really, really enjoyed. They had Scarecrow throughout the movies coming back from time to time. So
Another note with that is a shame of a big problem that I find with just throwing away villains is you also, it reduces the chances that you're going to have a good villain team up even. Like, you have the Legion of Doom for DC Comics, Marvel, I believe they have one that's blanking on it.
Well, I know that Spider-Man universe, there's the Sinister Six, which is...
I believe it's called the Masters of Evil, actually, now that I remember it. You can take away from that if some of the big players that would be on a good villain team-up movie are just gone.
Yeah, that's also very true. It's something I hadn't thought about, but that's very true, is you're not going to get a team of villains when all of your villains are dead. Something else that I think both of the franchises, which I think seems some of the stuff I've been reading, they kind of seem to regret doing this, but they kind of did it to try to beat each other, like, hey, look what is the releasing of their timeline. Here's all the movies we're going to make up until 2020 and beyond. Like, I just feel like that was such a mistake, because now it's like, well, I know, Captain America 3's coming out, so I know that he's not dying in this movie. Like, there's no chance of that, because they've already announced they're doing Captain America 3. Or I know that they're going to be doing, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, so it's like, I know the main characters, none of them are really at risk, because I already know the second movie's coming out. And this was obviously before, obviously that movie's in production and nearly finished, and I think that comes out end of the summer, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. But, so I mean, you're heading pretty close to like when that movie's out, but I mean, they announced they were doing that movie before the first one even hit theaters. Like, I don't know, I mean, do you have any thoughts on that, Dave?
I'm fully agreeing with you. One of the other shortfalls that you can see happening is when you got all these different movies and you're getting this one done, you're releasing it, and you're working on film and getting the next one filmed, is you're releasing the cast, you're releasing who's going to be in it. So like, I think a good example with like Age of Ultron was, in that movie, they set it up, you know, a lot that there's a possibility that Hawkeye's gonna die. You know, and even at the end there, until Quicksilver comes in and takes the bullets for him, you know.
Spoilers.
But, well, if you've ever seen the movie by now, you're not too worried about it. But, you know, either way, with that, it's like, but you know Hawkeye's not gonna die anyways, because it's been announced he's gonna be in Civil War. So like, you can't die in this movie and be in this movie. It just doesn't work, you know? So some of that just kind of, you know, it's like, when you kind of hit on that a little bit, it's like, well, you know Captain America's not gonna die, because he has to be in Captain America Civil War. You know, these characters aren't gonna die, because they've already been announced for Civil War. You know?
Yeah. Or now, I mean, you get characters, they basically announced the entire cast of everybody who's going to be in Infinity War. So you know that, like, with Thor, the third Thor movie coming out, you know Thor and Hulk are in that movie, and other characters are not really in any danger because they've announced they're going to be in that movie. So I guess we'll just wrap things up here. Anybody got any final thoughts they'd like to give on this debate?
A big problem that DC currently suffers from, and Andrew, I think you'll agree with me on this one, is the editing process they've had trouble with.
Yeah, it has been which is a lot of the reason for the poor reviews has been very choppy, very editing, where they're not really building this. The editing is kind of cutting the story out and building just to the action scenes, which is hurting their movies, in my opinion. Any final thoughts, Mark?
I would say, kind of like we talked about, I want to see them do a better job with the villains. That's something that I would really want to see. And sometime in the future, I would love Marvel to come out with a Venom movie.
Or Fox.
That would be
Or
Sony, Dave.
Sony,
There
there
you go. Sony.
Sony has the rights.
You heard me.
But we'll
Sony.
see where it goes, because Sony and Marvel now have their deal, because Spider-Man's in that universe, so...
I believe Sony actually did announce they were doing a Venom movie outside of the MCU recently.
They did at one point with The Amazing Spider-Man, and then that whole thing kind of fell
Yeah.
apart.
I thought I heard they talked about it again recently, too.
It's possible. I know that they were at one point, and then everything kind of fell apart. They were trying to do a big connected Spider-Man universe that kind of fell apart. Any final thoughts, Dave?
Not that hasn't been hit on much. I mean, we've hit on the big ones. I mean, I'd like to see, I mean, what worked with the Dark Knight and the darker theme is what they've tried to do throughout their movies, and I think that's hurt them even in their DC universe. But it sounds like they're working on figuring out how to lighten it up a little bit and not make the entire movie so dark and depressing. 'Cause, I mean, it worked for the Dark Knight, but it isn't working so well for them in their cinematic universe.
Yeah. So, on that note, thank you for watching. Like, share, and comment below. Let us know what your thoughts are on this debate between Marvel and DC. And then also hit us up with any other future topics you'd like us to discuss. And stay tuned for our next episodes where we're going to be talking more about media and social media. So, we'll see you next time.